You just spent 3 hours reading that chapter, highlighting every important point, taking detailed notes. You feel like you really understood it. Then the next day, someone asks you about what you learned, and your mind goes completely blank. Sound familiar? If you've ever wondered why information seems to slip through your brain like water through a sieve, you're not alone. The truth is, most of us have been studying completely wrong our entire lives. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why your brain forgets everything you study and give you the science-backed strategies that will transform how you learn and remember forever. Chapter 1, The Forgetting Curve Trap. Here's something that might shock you. Your brain is actually designed to forget. In 1885, German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered what he called the forgetting curve. It reveals a devastating truth about how our memory works. Within just 20 minutes of learning something new, you forget 40% of it. Within an hour, 50% is gone. By the end of the day, you've lost 70% of what you learned. Think of your brain like a bouncer at an exclusive club. It's constantly deciding what information gets to stay in long-term memory and what gets kicked to the curb. And here's the kicker. If information doesn't seem important or relevant to your survival, your brain treats it like junk mail and tosses it out. This is why you can remember every word of a song you heard once, but forget the definition of a term you studied for hours. The reason this happens lies in how your brain processes information. When you first encounter new information, it sits in what's called your working memory, which is like your mental workspace. But working memory is incredibly limited. It can only hold about 7 pieces of information at once. If that information doesn't get transferred to long-term memory through a process called consolidation, it simply disappears. Your brain decides what's worth remembering based on 3 key factors. Repetition, how often you encounter the information. Emotional significance, how much feeling is attached to it. Personal relevance, how it connects to your life. If something doesn't hit at least one of these criteria, your neural bouncer shows at the door. This is why cramming doesn't work. You're essentially trying to force your way past the bouncer instead of getting on the VIP list. Chapter 2, The Spacing Revolution. Now that you understand why your brain forgets, let's talk about how to hack this system. The most powerful memory technique you've probably never heard of is called spaced repetition. It's based on a counterintuitive principle. The best time to review something is right when you're about to forget it. Here's how it works. Instead of reviewing information over and over in one sitting, you space out your review sessions at increasing intervals. You might review something after 1 day, then 3 days, then a week, then 2 weeks, then a month. Each time you successfully recall the information right before you would have forgotten it, you're essentially telling your brain, hey, this is important, keep it around. Think of it like watering a plant. If you dump a gallon of water on it once, most of it runs off and the plant doesn't benefit. But if you give it small amounts of water regularly, it thrives. Your memory works the same way. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. Every time you recall information from memory, you're not just accessing it, you're actually rebuilding the neural pathway. And each time you rebuild it, especially when it's becoming weak, you make it stronger and more permanent. Scientists call this retrieval practice, and it's one of the most powerful learning techniques ever discovered. Here's your action plan. After you study something, review it the next day. If you remember it easily, wait 3 days before reviewing again. If you remember it then, wait a week. Keep increasing the intervals as long as you can successfully recall the information. This simple system will dramatically increase your long-term retention. Chapter 3, The Illusion of Knowing. Let me ask you something. Have you ever read a paragraph, understood every word, nodded along thinking, this makes perfect sense, and then realized you couldn't actually explain it to someone else? Welcome to the illusion of knowing, one of the most dangerous traps in learning. Your brain is a master of self-deception. When information is right in front of you, it feels like you know it. It's like having GPS directions on your phone versus actually knowing how to get somewhere. With the GPS, you feel confident about the route, but take away the phone and you're completely lost. This happens because there's a huge difference between recognition and recall. Recognition is easy. It's like multiple choice questions where you can spot the right answer. Recall is hard. It's like essay questions where you have to generate the answer from nothing. Most studying focuses on recognition, which creates a false sense of confidence. The solution is what psychologists call the generation effect. Instead of just reading and rereading, you need to actively generate information from memory. Close your book and try to write down everything you remember. Explain concepts out loud as if you're teaching them to a friend. Create your own examples. The struggle of trying to recall information is actually what builds strong memories. Here's a simple test. If you can't explain something in simple terms without looking at your notes, you don't really understand it yet. Einstein supposedly said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." Your brain will trick you into thinking you know something when you're just familiar with it. Don't fall for this illusion. Chapter 4. The Elaboration Advantage. Most people study like they're trying to stuff information into filing cabinets, cramming isolated facts into separate mental folders. But your brain doesn't work like a filing cabinet, it works like a spider web. The more connections you can create between new information and what you already know, the stronger your memory becomes. This is called elaborative processing, and it's based on a simple principle: meaning equals memory. Your brain remembers stories, connections, and relationships much better than isolated facts. When you learn something new, your goal should be to weave it into the rich tapestry of your existing knowledge. Let's say you're trying to remember that mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. Instead of just repeating this phrase, you could connect it to something you already know. Maybe you think about how mitochondria are like the power plants of a city, converting raw materials into electricity that keeps everything running. Or you might connect it to your morning coffee, how you need that energy boost to power through your day, just like cells need mitochondria to power through their functions. The more elaborate and personal you make these connections, the stronger they become. This is why storytelling is such a powerful memory tool. Your brain evolved to remember narratives, not lists of facts. When you turn information into a story, you're speaking your brain's native language. Here's your action strategy. Every time you learn something new, ask yourself 3 questions. How does this connect to something I already know? How could I explain this using an analogy or metaphor? What personal experience does this remind me of? The richer the web of connections you create, the more unforgettable the information becomes. Chapter 5. The Testing Effect. Here's something that will completely change how you think about studying. Testing yourself isn't just a way to check what you know, it's actually one of the most powerful ways to learn. This phenomenon is called the testing effect, and it reveals that the act of retrieving information from memory makes that information more memorable than any other study technique. Most students think of testing as the enemy, something to be endured after learning is complete. But research shows that testing is learning. When you force your brain to recall information, you're not just accessing memories, you're strengthening them. It's like doing bicep curls for your brain. The effort of retrieval makes your memory muscles stronger. Think about it this way. Reading your notes is like watching someone else do push-ups. You might understand how push-ups work, but your muscles don't get stronger. Testing yourself is like actually doing the push-ups. It's harder, sometimes uncomfortable, but it's what creates real strength. The most effective way to use the testing effect is through active recall. Instead of highlighting and rereading, create questions while you study and then test yourself on them later. Use flashcards, but not the way most people do. Don't just flip them over immediately when you can't remember. Sit with the discomfort of not knowing. Really try to pull the answer from your memory. That struggle is what creates learning. Here's a powerful technique. After you finish studying a section, close your book and write down everything you can remember. Then check what you missed and focus your next study session on those gaps. This method, called retrieval practice, has been shown to improve long-term retention by up to 50% compared to traditional studying methods. Chapter 6. The Interleaving Strategy. Most people study like they're doing laundry. They separate everything into neat, organized piles and work on one type of problem at a time until they master it. But there's a more effective approach that feels counterintuitive. Instead of practicing one skill until you perfect it, you mix up different types of problems or concepts in the same study session. This is called interleaving, and it's one of the most powerful learning strategies you've probably never heard of. Interleaving works because it forces your brain to constantly distinguish between different types of problems and choose the appropriate strategy for each one. It's like cross-training for your mind. When you practice the same type of problem repeatedly, you get good at that specific pattern, but you don't develop the ability to recognize when to use that knowledge in new situations. Imagine you're learning to play tennis. You could spend an hour practicing forehands, then an hour on backhands, then an hour on serves. That's block practice, and while you might feel like you're improving quickly, you're not preparing for a real game where shots come at you randomly. Interleaving would mean mixing up forehands, backhands, and serves throughout your practice session, just like in a real match. In studying, this might mean switching between different types of math problems instead of doing 20 algebra problems in a row. Or if you're studying history, instead of learning everything about World War I before moving to World War II, you might compare and contrast events from both wars throughout your study session. The key is that interleaving makes practice feel harder and less satisfying in the moment. but it creates much stronger, more flexible learning in the long run. Your brain has to work harder to identify patterns and choose strategies, which builds more robust neural pathways. Chapter 7. The Sleep Connection. Here's something most students completely ignore. What happens while you sleep might be more important for your memory than what happens while you're awake. Sleep isn't just rest for your body, it's when your brain does some of its most important work, consolidating memories and transferring information from temporary storage to permanent storage. During sleep, your brain literally replays the experiences of the day, strengthening the neural connections that represent your memories. It's like your brain has a night shift crew that comes in to organize and file away all the information you encountered during the day. Without adequate sleep, this process is disrupted, and many of your memories never make it from short-term to long-term storage. Studies show that people who sleep after learning retain significantly more information than those who stay awake. Even a short nap can boost memory consolidation. But here's what's really interesting. The type of sleep matters too. Deep sleep is when your brain consolidates factual information and skills, while REM sleep is crucial for creative insights and connecting disparate pieces of information. This means that all-nighters, the hallmark of student culture, are actually counterproductive. You might feel like you're being productive by staying up all night studying, but you're actually sabotaging your brain's natural memory consolidation process. It's like trying to save a document on a computer but never hitting the save button. The practical application is simple but powerful. Treat sleep as part of your study routine, not something that gets in the way of it. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, especially before important exams or presentations. If you're learning something particularly important, review it right before going to sleep. Your brain will continue working on it throughout the night. Chapter 8. Building your learning system. Now that you understand these individual principles, let's talk about how to weave them together into a comprehensive learning system that works with your brain instead of against it. The most successful learners don't just use these techniques randomly. They create systematic approaches that make effective learning automatic. Start by changing how you think about studying. Instead of marathon sessions where you try to absorb massive amounts of information, think of learning as a long-term relationship that requires consistent attention. Just like you can't build a strong friendship by spending 12 hours with someone once a month, you can't build strong memories by cramming. Create a spaced repetition schedule for important information. Use a simple calendar or app to remind yourself when to review specific topics. Start with daily reviews, then space them out as you demonstrate mastery. Combine this with active recall by testing yourself rather than just rereading notes. Practice interleaving by mixing different types of problems or concepts within each study session. If you're learning a language, don't spend an entire session on vocabulary, mixing grammar, listening practice, and speaking. If you're studying for multiple subjects, alternate between them rather than focusing on just one per day. Most importantly, respect your sleep and recognize it as a crucial component of learning, not an obstacle to it. Plan your study schedule so that you can get adequate rest, especially before important evaluations. The goal is to create a system that becomes habitual, where effective learning strategies become your default approach rather than something you have to remember to do. Your memory problems aren't a personal failing. They're the result of working against your brain's natural design instead of with it. The forgetting curve, the illusion of knowing, and poor consolidation during sleep aren't bugs in the system. They're features that you can learn to work with. By implementing spaced repetition, active recall, elaborative processing, strategic testing, interleaving, and proper sleep habits, you're not just improving your memory, you're fundamentally changing how your brain processes and retains information. Pick one of these strategies and implement it in your next study session. Notice how it feels different, maybe more challenging at first, but trust the process. Your brain is incredibly adaptable, and with the right approach, you can transform from someone who forgets everything to someone who remembers what matters. If this helped you understand why your memory has been failing you and how to fix it, make sure to subscribe for more science-backed strategies that will change how you think about learning and personal growth.